My. Look what we have here. The fugitive Democrats who fled Texas to go to Washington, D.C. to beg Daddy Joe Biden to pass the For the People Act so black women can vote have contracted COVID-19. And this is after they were seen on a private jet, right? Private jet with no mask, right? No mask. Even though us peasants, us non-elites who have to fly commercial, we have to wear masks because we're supposed to be looking out for people's safety, right? So we have to wear masks on the planes, right? However, again, rules for thee, not for me. The fugitive Democrats did not do that. And lo and behold, 3 of them, again, caught COVID, right? Now, again, the irony of this story is crazy, right? It's off the charts, right? Because it does put the hypocrisy of the Democrats center stage for the world to see, right? Even the liberal media, they could not avoid talking about this because they claim they care about super spread events so much, right? And since they care about super spread events so much, I think that it would be consistent for them to cover these Democrats whom have contracted this virus, whom have been, interacting with all these other politicians in DC, right? That may cause some issues, right? They may have, came in contact with some very powerful folks within Congress of the Biden administration, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. But I must say, Lauren Boebert won the tweet of the week here in response, as she says, quote, turns out that the fugitive super spreaders may have taken a photo with Miller Lite, but they were actually carrying Corona. Oh man, the right is having a good time with this. However, I'm going to burst everybody's bubble a little bit later in this video because I don't think that this is a good thing. I really don't. And guys, before I get into this, I gotta say that I'm not making any claims about the virus. I'm not making any claims about the vaccine. I'm not making any claims about anything whatsoever. If you have any questions about the virus, the vaccine, the pandemic, anything, consult your doctor, right? This is a video purely about public policy. I am making no claims whatsoever. So let's read here. Several of the Texas Democrats who fled the state capitol to avoid voting on an election integrity bill have tested positive for the coronavirus. 3 of the 60 Texas House Democrats tested positive for the virus while staying in Washington, D.C., according to Texas House Democratic Caucus leadership. One of the members found out that their positive test late on Friday evening, but did not have symptoms, officials say. All House members were notified of the positive test and were all tested themselves immediately. The caucus says that the 2 other members found out about their positive test on Saturday. The members who tested positive will be forced to isolate themselves for 10 days. Earlier this week, the Democratic lawmakers fled to the nation's capital to avoid participating in a quorum vote on a Republican proposed bill aimed at threatening voter ID requirements for mail-in ballots. The bill also bans drive-through and overnight early voting. Okay, so yeah, they will have to isolate themselves, right? And Kamala Harris, whom allegedly may have come in contact with these fugitive Democrats who caught the virus, will not quarantine. She's not going to quarantine herself. So let's find out a little bit more about what's going on here, because they may have come in contact with some high-profile characters in Washington. Vice President Kamala Harris will not quarantine herself after meeting with Texas Democrats who tested positive for the coronavirus, her office said Saturday. The Vice President's chief spokesperson, Simone Sanders, said in a statement to reporters it was determined the Vice President and her staff present at the meeting were not at risk of exposure because they were not in close contact with those who tested positive and therefore do not need to be tested or quarantined. Harris met with Democrat members of Texas state legislators on Tuesday after they fled the state to protest election security laws, including 2 of them who later tested positive for the virus. Quote, defending the right of the American people to vote is American as apple pie, she said to Applause. The meeting took place at the American Federation of Teachers building near the Capitol building. 3 Democrat members tested positive for the virus. The Texas State House Democratic Caucus confirmed Saturday after the trip, even though they were fully vaccinated. The Texas Democrats took a private jet to Washington, D.C. to highlight their protests and were photographed not wearing masks during their trip. But Harris and her team did not appear concerned about spreading the virus as a result of the event. Quote, the vice president and her staff are fully vaccinated, Sanders said in her statement. Harris continued with her regular schedule after being in a room with the Democrats who later tested positive for the virus. She appeared beside President Joe Biden on Wednesday and Thursday, and also welcomed German Chancellor Angela Merkel to the White House on Thursday. The White House did not respond to a question from Breitbart News about whether President Joe Biden had been tested as a precaution. Kamala may or may not have come in contact with some of them. Now, you would think that she would get tested anyways, just in case, just to see. But, you know, the last thing that they would want is for Kamala to test positive for this virus after meeting with these Texas Democrats. That would literally be the last thing that the Democrat Party wants, okay? That would be the last thing. But, guys, a lot of people are trying to see this as some type of win. And honestly, I really don't see it as some type of win, because this event, honestly, in my opinion, probably could be used to reinstate the lockdowns and mask mandates, right, that we're currently seeing happening across the world due to these new variants, right? And that's something that's been teased even in the U.S., right? As some states are opening up, some states, are like, we might not necessarily want to open up as fast. Okay, we might want to implement more lockdown measures, or, more mask mandates or whatever. In a high-profile case like this, where you have these Democrats catching this virus, I think could be used as reasoning to re-implement some of those things, right? For some of these states and these legislators to think twice about opening up. And that's why I don't think that this is necessarily a good thing that people really should be celebrating, to be quite honest with you, right? Like, obviously, the irony is unbelievable, right? Obviously, it's one of those things where the Democrats, for as much as they want to grandstand and virtue signal about masks and, all this other stuff when it comes to the virus, them catching it, right, kind of shows, rules for thee, not for me. At the same time, the Democrats are good at using this type of stuff to essentially reverse the narrative and to implement things that they want anyways, which is more lockdowns, right? And to say, well, you know what, this is why we need more mask mandates, because this very reason right here, because these people caught it, right? So in my opinion, guys, like I said, I don't necessarily see this as a good thing. I also think that the precedent that these Democrats are setting, these Texas Democrats, in terms of walking out on the vote in Texas, I think is probably going to bite them in the butt later in the future, because if they ever won a majority in Texas, right, in the Texas legislature, the Republicans can just do the same thing to them, right, can walk out if they decide to do something that Republicans don't like, and then they wouldn't be able to say anything about it, okay? I think the funniest part to me is precedent, right? And I've talked to you guys so much about precedent, because precedent is everything in politics. Anytime you do something, you always have to think about, how could this potentially be used against me? How can this be turned around against me in the future, right? How could this possibly negatively affect me in the future? It might be positive right now, but it doesn't mean that in the future it's going to be positive for you, right? You always have to be prepared for that. So the irony is crazy. We will see what happens moving forward here. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.